Thank you very much. The meeting has now started. It's 6 o'clock, and we have a lot of you here in the public. We're going to start with public participation. I know there are a significant number of people who come to talk in connection to item 14 to receive a report on the wharf leases. Therefore, I ask those people who have come to talk on that to hold on until we get to item 14, and then your contributions can be part of our debate upon that. Therefore, for public participation, which is the first thing, can I ask, are there any people who are not here to talk about the wharf item who wish to say something? Yes, sir.
You want to go first, mate?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. As you know, the Bude Canal and Harbour Society will be opening the branch workshop from the 7th of this month to the 29th of September. All your councillors have been invited to come on the 7th. I think myself and somebody else will be there. We are able to double man all the dates as required by our agreement. However, there are still 2 of your bench type tables in the property that restricts the circulation of people around the premises. The large table, which is normally inside the door that we have open, is right at the other end of the table, and it would take 2 strong men to carry it. And one of my trustees are strong, and not all of them are men. So if you could do something about that. And the other important thing is that the disabled access has not been done. It's a bit of a bother because I think you probably have the money from the RWA buying us for probably at least 2 years. I mean, one day somebody's going to make a complaint. And if someone complains to me on Sunday about this, I will tell them to make a complaint to the relevant authorities. So that's other than that.
Okay, thank you. That I can't answer.
No, I don't
Any of that, but I can certainly ask you that, pass on to the relevant people and see if we can expedite some of that. Okay, right. You, sir.
Okay. My name's Ron Skinner. I come from Heartland. I come in peace. My grandchildren are currently doing a performance in the hall opposite, as it were, so I'm quite keen to get away and see what they're going to say. I do have an honorary Cornish passport because I used to work for Duchy College. In fact, the last time I was in this room, it was a garage, and the grounds maintenance schemes were centred here. I'm here representing myself, but also supporting a group called 7 Concerned Citizens. And I would advise people in the room to go and have a look at their webpage. I'm also here as a critical friend of the Town Council. So I've sent the Town Council and most of the councillors a copy of an email I hope you've seen. I raised some points at the latest Bude Climate Festival event. And to a large extent, I was raising the opposite views to what was being presented at that particular event. I'm assuming that councillors have actually seen my email, and within that there is an invitation for people to come to a public meeting, particularly for councillors actually, to inform them of the opposite side of the scientific evidence and the risk to the public of implementing net zero. So I have some leaflets here, which I didn't realise this was going to be quite such a big meeting. I might have to go back to anybody else, I might have to go back to the car and dig out some more leaflets, but I will pass those around in a minute. So just to give you a gist of what the public meeting is about, as I've said, it's the opposite side of the narrative, and I would personally invite councillors to come along. I gave some advice at the climate change debate that was going on, which I felt was completely biased as regards to science, etc. To actually look at the webpage for 7 Concerned Citizens, to view the movie called Climate the Movie, because that gives a very good, succinct, opposite narrative, as it were. And maybe some of you may not have heard this quote, for instance. So, does anyone know who Dr. Patrick Moore is?
Yeah.
Okay, and?
Well, I've seen some of his stuff.
Okay, so he's the founder of Greenpeace.
Yeah, it was.
And he basically says the climate emergency is fabricated. So if someone with that credibility as regards environmental credibility, which is where I'm coming from, because that's been my whole life. As I said, I worked at Dutchy College. I led land-based qualifications across Devon and Cornwall. If someone of that calibre is saying that, we should be asking why, I think, and why someone like myself is saying it as well. So some of the science is actually questionable. It was never very strong, and now there are 1,800 scientists and experts coming out basically saying this doesn't make sense. So I know that for you, Town Council, and I've seen a lot of the work that you do, you're very good. You were very good employers for students that I had. You know, I was here quite frequently. You're very committed to that process. So I would ask you to step back and look at the alternative arguments, and do that by coming to the meeting that I'm organising. So what I'd like you to do is commit to that, to send me any questions that you have pre that meeting, so that I can try and engineer it, if you like, so that those are asked. And if they're not asked at the meeting, I'll definitely make sure they're asked. And if you have questions subsequent to the meeting, then I'll make sure those are answered as best as I can as well. There are 4 speakers, well actually 5 now, because I'm having trouble containing people. There are lots of people that want to come and speak about this and listen to what's being said. So one is Jeff Pomeroy, who's a farmer from Bradworthy, and he's been joined by a qualified vet, Mr. Meacock, for 20 minutes, and then some questions and answers. There's Sarah Farrell, who wasn't given the chance to speak at the climate debate, so she's a current candidate, and I guess everyone's cast their votes by now, so I can mention her name. So she was a candidate for the Heritage Party. She's going to talk about the National Planning Policy Framework. And then a representative from 7 Concerned Citizens. And I'll just mention, at the moment, Devon County Council and Cornwall County Council are under legal notice from 7 Concerned Citizens for failure to reply and not respond to reasonable questions. Legal notice. So if I stop paying my council tax and you send out some kind of legal notice, do I just ignore that? Because that's what's happening. So Glyn Owing is coming from 7 Concerned Citizens, and then Sandy Adams is coming down from Glastonbury. She's almost a rock star in the context of challenging councils. And that's what I think we as the public need to be doing more of, because effectively a lot of the time policies are just rolling through, pushed down from above, and nobody's really questioning what those policies are the consequences of them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So probably more I could say, but I think I've given you a gist. I'll pass out some of these leaflets to members of the public.
Okay.
I'm assuming that you guys have got access to the posters.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for
Okay.
speaking.
Is there anybody else who would like to say something? This gentleman first.
Go on, Jamie, first. HB4 beauty, but
Mr. Jennings.
I went to Stratton yesterday, I wanted to ring. What the hell is going on with that Lord's Court? What are you up to? You've got people in there you can't get out. Why is this?
So, yeah, we're not, I'm afraid we're not at liberty to discuss tenant issues. We're just not, sorry.
It's our money. What's going on? I want to know what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
Simple as.
I'm afraid we're not at liberty to discuss that for now.
Why not?
I cannot comment. I'm sorry.
You're the mayor of this town.
Yeah.
You've never been elected to anybody. No one in this town has ever voted for you or anything.
Okay.
So you,
Mr. Jennings.
you're obligated to
Mr.
tell-
Jennings.
No, you listen
Mr.
and
Jennings.
listen good. I
Okay.
want to know what you're
I
doing with our money.
need to say to you that I am the chair of this meeting, and I need to warn you that if you talk to me with disrespect, I will.
You talk down to everybody. Oh, listen, you're talking to these people. You talk down to everybody.
Okay, Mr. Jennings, I'm now talking to you, and I'm asking you to stop talking at this point in time. I do have to warn you that if you continue to be disrespectful and offensive towards me and this council, then I will ask you to leave.
And I won't.
At which point we will be a situation that I'll have to resolve. But I'm asking you to stop at this point. Thank you. So,
Good evening, Mayor. I've arrived this evening because of the comments in the local paper about what happened at the Pride plants in Bude. And you said that the council will not be bullied about the community of this town. Well, Pride has nothing to do with the gay and lesbians in this town. They are trouble in the country and the world.
okay, can I just stop you there? Would you like me to reply to, would you like to clarify my statement?
Well, hands up any councillors that think I was the one responsible for taking the flags down.
Okay, would you like me to clarify my statement?
Sorry,
Would you like me to clarify my statement?
what is your statement?
My statement was that the council would not be bullied for the taking down of any flags. And the reality is, if something is done in a way that is then repeated and repeated, that is essentially attempting to subvert the democratic process of the council. The council has a policy about what flags are flown. We make that decisions. We make those decisions democratically. There is a decision to be made on this agenda about a flag. We will make that decision democratically, and that is it. People who attempt to subvert that are attempting to stop basically the democracy that we have here. Okay,
Well,
is there
the thing
anybody
is-
else?
No, I haven't.
Sorry,
finished.
you,
You interrupted me
no,
and I haven't finished.
okay, I'm sorry, but I'd like to finish now because you've made your statement. I understand your position, but you did ask me to clarify my statement. I clarified my statement. You asked a question. I'll let you talk for a little bit more, but then we must move on.
Right. So you said the council wasn't going to be bullied about this community. You're the biggest bully in this meeting. And I asked you to step down because you're not fit for purpose.
Okay, okay, thank you for that. We'll stop there. I refer you to my previous answers on that allegation.
Do you know where that is?
Okay, so,
Do
excuse
you
me.
know where that is?
Okay, again, can you stop talking, please?
No,
They don't like the Cornish people. This is the
Can
problem.
you stop talking, please?
no.
Can
Do you
stop?
know where that is?
I have to
Anybody
say
in
to
this
you-
room know this man?
I have to say to you, right, can you
Anybody
please
know this
stop?
man? He's a pedophile
Okay,
on TikTok.
so you are
He
bringing
invites
into,
children
I'm
through
going to ask
Pride
you to stop now.
to
please.
sexually assault them.
I'm going to ask you to stop.
And if you don't know that,
I'm going to ask
I
you
know.
to stop on repeated occasions now.
and the same with
If
that
you,
woman.
I'm now warning you, if you do not stop, I will put it to the council to resolve to have you removed
To be removed?
from this room
Why?
because you
There's
are
free speech
disrupting
in
this
this
meeting.
country, I told you that.
But isn't that his democratic right to make the point?
Okay, please.
We have a democratic
So he's
Okay.
trying to inform him, not in a nasty way.
Okay, okay. Excuse me, sir, I've not asked you to talk yet.
You'll get detention in a minute because this is a classroom.
Okay.
See that little girl there?
I'm now asked to stop. Okay, if you are refusing to stop, I will now put a resolution to the council asking for you to be removed.
To be removed?
Hmm.
Why?
Because you're not listening to me.
I'm listening to you. I told you to step down because you weren't fit for purpose because you're a bully.
Okay, right.
You
So,
talk about the council
I need
being
you to
bullied,
stop talking.
about the community,
Okay,
where
I need you to
every
stop talking.
lesbian and gay person has lived here
I'm now giving you multiple.
75 years.
Right, okay, I need to say to you this. If a person disregards the request of the chair to moderate or improve their conduct, any councillor or the chair may move that that person be excluded from the meeting. The motion, if seconded, shall be put to the vote without discussion. If motion is agreed by the chair, the chair may take further reasonable steps to restore order or to progress the meeting. This may include suspending or closing the meeting.
Right then, vote me
Okay.
out then.
So I
Come
now
on then,
putting
show of
to the
hands,
council-
vote me out.
So I now move that we do that. Would anybody like to second that? Thank you. That has now been seconded. There should be no discussion upon this. So, all those in favour of excluding this person from the meeting? Okay, hands down. All those against? Okay, all those abstaining? Right, that motion is now carried. Can you please leave the meeting?
No comment.
Think we can get it for me.
Yeah, why have you got the right to remove me? As a member of the public and I've lived here all my life. Have you?
I'm asking you,
Have you lived here all your life?
I'm asking you to leave the meeting.
I'm a Cornishman. And I've
We have
lived here
rules
for
in there.
77 years.
And actually, I now have to enforce a decision that's been made by this council. This council has now excluded you from this meeting. I'm asking you to leave this meeting.
Well, why would they put their hand up against my free speech? Everybody in this room is entitled to speak.
Okay, so this is what I propose to go for
You
you.
propose what you like.
Okay,
I haven't come here to cause trouble. Gay people have lived in this community for years and years and years, and I'm not against them. I'm only against the pride of
Okay.
car.
right, can we vote to suspend the meeting, please? I need to have somebody to second my proposal to suspend the meeting. Thank you. Okay, can we now have a vote to suspend the meeting? All those in favour? That's that. All those against? All those abstain? Okay. That is carried. This meeting is now suspended.
We have a large number per day, corresponds to one, sometimes up to 19. We're free on one day, but in requirements from athletes for campus. So we actually find ourselves off as being we have a large number of young people as well, and families who are from the home educated group, who we have supported them to apply for preschool meals, who are eligible for preschool meals if they were attending school, and become the benefit of preschool meals, which then allows them to attend the program for free as well. So we have given extra support there, and we have a number of children from social care as well, who are coming to us in addition to the other revenue. So I've got a wide-ranging inclusive program running from the 29th of July to the 22nd of August for people who live around Stratton and surrounding villages. We also had some good news back in May, where our program was recognised. We were nominated by families that attended our program, which I was unaware of, for the HAF program for Cornwall, which, unbeknownst to me, we actually won. Was nominated as one of the best program in Cornwall. We then were put forward by Active Cornwall for the South West Regional Award, which goes, or South Award, sorry, which goes up as far as Reading and down. And we're lucky enough that we've actually won that. So we've got to go to the House of Commons and collect an award, which was meant to have been in June, but because the elections have been put back, and we're now going at the beginning of November. We've also been shortlisted for the National Award now as well, which we'll find out on the day we get that. So that's where we're at with the programme. There has been an extensive write-up, which will be published by the House of Commons, which includes Bude-Stratton Town Council and their contribution towards the holiday programme, because the reason that we've won it is because of our inclusivity, community outreach and inclusion to be able to support families beyond the preschool meal application, which obviously at the council, you have played a huge part in.
Thank you very much. Yes, can we go? Councillor Preston.
Yes, thank you, Leo. I wasn't aware of the award, so further congratulations and gratitude from me, what you and your team are doing for the people of Bude. But just for the record, I think this is really interesting for the crowd to note. What is it that we are doing in Bude above and beyond what everybody else is doing?
So how it came about was a small group of councillors, who were present here, Charlotte, Philip, being two of them at the time, the original start, and Amanda Tame. We got together and discussed the need for families within the area who weren't eligible for free school meals, because a lot of people that are self-employed aren't eligible or able to apply for free school meals. But people that are really on the red line and were struggling to feed their families. So I wanted to provide a programme which not only supported the free school meals, but supported families that were in our area, of which the councillors replicated that same vision. So the initial proposal was to the council, which went through the three councillors that I worked with, was that the council would provide some support for the families that were on the red line. So there would be a small cost from my end, and then the difference we made up on the council. It was trialled initially to be only done for one holiday programme, and 4 holiday programmes later, we're still going, and we're now going into the 5th holiday programme, which that continues. The amount of money is, if you know that specifically, so every child gets charged £10, and then the 15 difference is made up by the council, which allows every child to be fed breakfast and lunch, as well as having a whole day childcare. In turn, it's not just in allowing those young people to be able to attend an inclusive holiday programme, it also in many cases allows parents to work. They had to afford childcare, they wouldn't be able to afford it because if you was working, so the time you were actually paid more out in childcare. So that was the other reason, was being able to allow that. Families go to work because then they realize they have to put food on the table as well. So that's the process which takes place.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from present? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question? Does the councillor Bourne realise that Cornwall Council do a very similar programme and so?
The programme that is being run is through Cornwall Council Time to Move. So that is the free piece, which the whole of Cornwall run. But we've got above and beyond in Bude to be able to support just the families that are on the red line, that are under constituency of Bude-Stratton. And then in April also to attend at a discounted price. So the rest of Cornwall are only offering preschool meals. We have 6 councils currently that I'm talking to who want to know the process of which happens with the council of Bude because they want to replicate it. Fulham, Penzance, Padstow, 4 others, 3 others, sorry. I can't think of the other 3. Well, so, one on the Lizard and Liscard and Callington are the other councils that we're speaking to at the moment because they want to replicate the same Bude-Stratton.
Thank you very much.
Can I come back just a tiny bit on that? I just want to try to address what the answer that I think Mr. Crane might have been thinking. So the Bude-Stratton Town Council, and of course the Bude-Stratton Precept Payer, is supporting further extension of the holiday and food programme that Cornwall Council provides, because Cornwall Council net finishes at the free school meals. So what we do here is we'll provide a subsidy to allow any child that lives in the Bude-Stratton catchment area to have support funding through this council. I've got to say that I think we're the only council that does that in Cornwall, quite possibly even in the UK. I don't know how. I wouldn't wish to do that, but I do get councillors in County Hall coming up to me and saying, "I wish every area was able to do what Bude does, because it's an exemplar and it's absolutely top of the tree.
Councillor Boy has said what I was going to say, that we go further than the baseline provision, which I think sort of was originated by Marcus Rashford for a long chain of events. I might be wrong on that, but we do offer support for children in this area. And I was somewhat cynical when I first heard about this, because I thought, well, you know, what's a little authority at our level doing, effectively offering a kind of a social care package? But it works, and it's run extraordinarily well, and we can see that it represents exceptional value for money to the precept payers, and by allowing parents that wouldn't otherwise be able to work to actually go to work, probably adds significantly to the local economy as well. So what's not to like, really?
Okay, councillors. I wish to use Chair's prerogative to move an item up the agenda. Item 14, to receive a report on wharf leases and agree any associated actions. The reason I'm going to do this is I think we've had a few today, and I think the people who are part of this would like to, well, they'd like to get on with it, basically. Before we hear from you, we need to introduce what you have in front of you is a report, which hopefully you will have read. I'd like to draw your attention. Okay, I would actually pass over to the officer first. Would you like to say something on the report before I say something?
Yeah, so I think the key things just to highlight to you are that in May of this year, C&D committee resolved that Wharfcraft units 1 and 2 be put out to tender to start in 2025, in line with the process that was agreed at full council in 2023. So that resolution has already gone through. So what is the options on the table are to discuss whether the offer is for an open tender opportunity for 5 years with an offer of an automatic renewal 5 years, which at that point would include RPI linked increases, or to offer as a conventional rental property the amount set by the council with annual RPI linked increases from the beginning.
I would like to add to that in my opinion, this is a decision that's already been made by the council. If we think about the options in number one, option number one means that the wharf properties would stay as startups. Option number two means that they would eventually stop from being startups and be vulnerable to conventional rental prices and the rest. That is something perhaps we should be aware of. We should also be aware of that the decision that we make here might affect other decisions about to do in connection with tendering later on, or previous decisions that we've made about tendering. That is something I'd like councillors to keep in mind, because there's quite a breadth of thoughts about this. Before I go to councillors, I would like to now.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Marie Glossop, and I'm currently one of the occupants of Unit 1 Atlantic Glass Studio, which I operate with a further 3 artists. But I'm also representing my neighbour, Fran Vincent here, who's in Unit 2. First of all, some of you may not know anything about me. I moved to Bude from the way rural hinterland of the Halsley area in the 1990s. I moved for work. I was employed at a financial institution in the town, something which is increasingly rare. It's now a wine bar. And in 2002, I started working for the Gregson Centre in Stratton. I worked there for 15 years in the arts and crafts sector, trained tutor, but I also worked in the office. I taught a range of leisure and vocational qualifications up to GCSE level. I had students that have gone on to study at Plymouth College of Art. I studied myself at Plymouth College of Art, contemporary crafts degree. I was eventually subject sector category manager for the arts and crafts and performance skills for the whole of Cornwall. So I have a bit of experience when we're talking about craft businesses and generally about the state of the markets, as it were. Because I've since run these businesses and been there for 12 years. We were only first aware of any changes within the situation of our tenancy when we received a letter which contained a number of inaccuracies about our tenancy in May. And we then subsequently went to the Democratic and Corporate and Democratic meeting to find out really what was going on, and were astounded that nobody bothered to even communicate with us that they were substantially changing the agreement which we thought we had originally when we started the leases in 2012. We believe that councillors were possibly not aware of the agreements that have been discussed with us at the time and the intentions that were at the time, but specifically for units 1 and 2. I know the other units, which are retail units, and not limited as such as ours to only selling goods that we create. We have limited power supply. There are there are restrictions on what any business can do. And we'd like to ask councillors to reconsider their position, specifically with relationship to units 1 and 2. And I believe it's to ask you to sign a notice of motion to overturn the previous decision. When we applied for the units, they were advertised with a fixed rent, and we had the application process was to put in a proposal with a business plan as to make sure we'd be a viable business, and it would be operated similar to the Park House units, which belong to Cornwall Council, which are just here. The market rent was independently assessed and set at that time, which was we felt was a transparent and fair. And we were fully aware of that before we agreed to take the tenancy. We were offered an initial lease for a year, and then 2 further 5 leases for 5 years consecutively. And there was an increase annually linked to the retail price index. We had the agreement that we would always be offered the ongoing use if we were good tenants and didn't cause any problems. And we've never been informed, either verbally or in writing, that we would have to reapply at the end of the first 10-year tenancy. Clearly, we've been there 12 years and we will have been there 13 years by the time the tenancy comes up. Certainly us in the unit 1, we wouldn't have put £2,000 worth of investment into the flooring, which wasn't up to the safety standards to our view to our customers in the last tenancy, had we known that we might risk having our tenancy at the end. We did this in full correspondence with the council, and no time did they mention at the time that might be the case. Tendering these workshops, I think, is a very tricky thing. There's not a prescribed business that you're going to run from these units. It could be vastly different. Woodworker, leather worker, woodworker, probably wouldn't be pottery because the electricity supply isn't capable. But how could you tell whether one business would be able to sustain the same as another business, whether that term, whether their profit would equate to somebody else's business? So to use a tendering process, and suggested in the previous meeting, use our offer as a benchmark, doesn't really apply. We're very grateful for the opportunity to start up the businesses. At the time, there was not very many options available, and subsequently we felt certainly there are a lot more options now, not just the internet, but there are a lot more fairs, a lot more markets, a lot more events going on in the town, which include some sort of craft or something aspect of beach huts. There is a lot more opportunity now than there ever has been. And I've certainly taught a lot of students that started their own business and got through the network of people that I know through arts and crafts. A lot of people who started business, and I've also known quite a few people who've had to cease their business. So to help one new business, but at the cost of possible financial negative impact on another few businesses, I feel it's a very difficult thing to do. And that's something I'm not sure that you would want to guess at who is the best person. It seems like quite a difficult decision, and I wouldn't like to make that decision even with my experience of the sector. So I would like to know who would feel qualified to judge on whose business would be the best business to be in those units. And I'm arguing in this case, not only for us, we won't be there forever. Of course, we'll have moved on in our own good time if that happens. But for any new business coming in, if you've only got 5 or 10 years, and then you've got to radically rechange your business model because you lost your main avenue. We do sell in other ways, but this is our main avenue. We've given up other avenues in order to leave space for other artists. It's going to have a kind of snowball effect. So we think the market's already really competitive, and we think that the council should also support existing businesses, as well as possibly helping new businesses and look at other ways of supporting businesses if possible. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I just want to clarify something. The original legal position is the original leases were for a 5-year period.
No, though we originally had a first year of 3 years and starting in 2012.
Okay. The original leases were for a 5-year period with an optional 5-year extension. This period will come to an end in May, June 2025 respectively. And the council are within their right to proceed with the tendering of these properties. Tendering itself, there are many different ways to tender properties, and that would be put into the hands of our officers who are experienced in this sense. That's the only comment that I'll make on what you said. I now open this up to councillors for comment. Okay.
Sometimes when we're sitting around this table talking about grass cutting and other aspects which are sort of nice but don't have a direct bearing on people's livelihoods, decisions come relatively easy. But this one is difficult because it does have a very direct bearing on people who have put their heart and their soul into those units over on the ward. And I must admit that it would be very easy just to say, let's find some way, some form of business to allow the tenants to continue pretty much as is. But I genuinely don't feel that that is the best thing that we can do for the businesses there and for the people in Bude-Stratton in general. Those businesses have been there for a long time, and to allow them to continue without going to some kind of tendering process would mean we never would know the opportunity cost of those businesses being there. It might be that there is effectively no opportunity cost. Nobody else would want to go in there on those terms. But there might be other businesses in the town. There might be people wanting to start a business and would see those units as desirable. So without going to some form of tender, we'll never know. And I think it is incumbent upon us to ask that question. And so I think tendering is possibly the best way forward. But to give some reassurance to existing tenants, we can create a decision matrix that weights things like the track record of the business as good payers, the fact that that business might be site specific and find it very difficult to operate elsewhere, we can build in within our decision-making process ways to balance a potential new tenant with the existing tenants. And I think that, it's very hard for me to say to those tenants, trust us to come up with a good decision-making matrix, but in effect, that's what I'm asking us to do. However, having said all of that, I think there is enough doubt about this process that we've entered into at the moment, and enough sort of unnecessary stress that we've put on the tenants to suggest that we should postpone the whole thing for a year. So instead of setting this process running to conclude at just about the same time that this council concludes, I suggest that we postpone it until 2026 rather than 2025. And then another council, another group of individuals sitting around this table can take their view on it in due course. So my proposal would be that we carry out option one, but we postpone it for a year to 2026.
Thank you. I'm not sure of our legal position there. This has come to an end. But, yeah, so it is the May, June is the end of the period in which this is concluded. Councillor Bright.
Thank you. I think I might be about to offer an entirely opposite view to Councillor Colwell. It does happen. So I'm going to speak from some of my own personal experience. My own personal experience is that my wife and I have run several different shops in Bude. We've owned various bits of property which we have leased. And there's a general underlying principle in commercial leases that there is a form of intellectual property, if you like, that people build with their business. And that is effectively that the place of business actually has some relevance and some importance. And the fact, to my mind, here that people of our community are running small enterprises, as we encouraged them to set down that road to several years ago, that they, I believe, have some not unreasonable expectation to be able to continue to trade and operate from those units. I know it might not be in black and white on paper that it says that, but I think it's a reasonable expectation that if they've built their business in that place, they've been a good tenant, they've paid the rent, they haven't caused any problems by damaging the property, that it wouldn't be wrong to expect the council to renew their leases. Councillor Colwell, you mentioned, I think, opportunity cost or opportunity value. I think that, I don't want to use the word red herring, that's probably a bit too negative, but it can be easily dealt with by getting an independent valuation on those premises, which I'm sure the tenants would be happy to make sure that their rents were in line with reasonable local expectations. I understand why the council made the decision to try and reorder our properties and have a standard format that we look at. But I think, having heard the arguments from the people that occupy these premises, that to postpone or delay is just potentially giving them a bit more pain. I would advocate not for postponing or delaying, but to go either way or the other. And I'm going to advocate very strongly for option 2 if we can do that, bearing in mind previous decisions that the councillors have made. And I don't feel that departs too strongly from other properties that are within our portfolio.
Okay, thank you. I'm just reminding us that we have already resolved to put Warcraft units 1 and 2 out to tender to start in 25. That is a standing resolution of this council. Any other comments? Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got a few questions. What Was it all the units that are going to go out to tender? Is it just the first 1 and 2?
So at this stage, we started the process however many months ago in anticipation that in May and June, these would be the next properties on our portfolio ready for their leases to renew.
And the next question is, what is the difference between unit 1 and 2 and the other units there? What does it say in terms of what they're able to do there? You know, why are 1 and 2 different? Sorry, I've forgotten your name, but the lady that spoke mentioned that there was some restrictions on unit 1 and 2 compared to the other units. I just wondered what those restrictions are, what that means in terms of, you know, who could be in there, what they could be used for, that kind of thing.
I don't know.
There's only one other unit,
Okay, yeah.
and that one, the lady that originally had it left, so it was retendered, so their lease is not up. That's why it's only 2.
Units 1 and 2 are classed as a workshop.
Yeah,
and,
but what I'm trying to
unit 3
clarify is unit 3 is not involved because theirs is.
and they're classed as retail shop. We're classed as workshops for
That's why they're
making.
not involved because theirs isn't fine.
So it can only be used as a workshop. You can't have it as anything else. So
Yeah.
right.
They are classed as commercial from an internal perspective. They are classified as commercial properties.
But does it state in their lease that they are a workshop rather than a retail space?
I don't have the lease.
It states in our lease that we can only sell what we make.
Right. Okay. That's kind of what. So from like, okay, I can kind of see from both sides here. So from someone who is a small business owner, I know how incredibly difficult it is to find somewhere in Bude that's affordable. And believe me when I say it's not. So I understand that. I also understand, like, if I had someone, if I had somewhere, I wouldn't want to give it up. I also see how many wonderful people there are in Bude, artists and creative people that are struggling for some sort of space to use. And so my thoughts are kind of torn between the two. I think if I was in that position, I would want to hold on to that. I think, as Councillor Leroy said, it does become part of your identity, it becomes part of who you are, becomes part of your business. People know where you are, where to find you, where you're going to be. And I think maybe that, in my mind, trumps anything else in this instance.
Thank you. Councillor?
Yes, as you quite rightly said, the resolution wasn't the units would be made a tender, and the only way of dealing with that, if the council's minded to come to a different opinion, is to notice a motion signed by 6 of us, and if that is successful, it will be brought back onto the table and be discussed. So I think we should move on from this, and hopefully 6 of us will sign a notice of motion and bring it to the next council meeting. At which point, if the motion is successful to bring it back to the table, then it will be discussed. If it's not, then it's nonsense. If you follow the logistics of that. If the motion to bring it back to the table fails, then the existing resolution stands, and that's nothing we can do about that. But if the motion succeeds to bring it back to the table, then the next item on the agenda would be to rediscuss this item. And I think, in light of what has been said by the tenants and Councillor Boy as well, and myself, I think it warrants further discussion to give some security back to our good tenants who've not let us down as an authority, and the council taxpayer as a whole. The track record is worth a lot.
The position we're in at the moment, I'm afraid, is that nobody, this was the thing that being discussed at CMD, and therefore we've had so far no 6 signatures, no notice put forward to us. Therefore, at this point, this is what's on the table, and this is the item on the agenda. So we could still make a decision on this, and if councillors were minded to get 6 signatures together to challenge our decision, then they could do that. But we have a decision in front of us, in my opinion, that we have to make. That's my opinion at this point in time. Sorry, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Can I just, for my own sake, be clear on what we've got on the paper in front of us? Option 1 is what we resolved.
Yeah.
To go back to the open market effectively, albeit with the ability to construct a matrix that favours certain characteristics that we like. Option 2 would be counter to the resolution we've made, so we can't really go for option 2. But option 2 would be, although that's what Councillor Broy is suggesting. So option 2, conventional rental property. So that means the workshop restrictions lifted. It rolls on, so it doesn't say for how long that would be. And does that presume a sort of right to stay if they behave themselves kind of thing? I'm not clear what is wrapped up in that conventional rental property.
Well, the conventional rental property is not a starter property. Start. That's what I know so far. Would anyone like to clarify?
Yeah, so the resolution on the table is that it is to be put out to tender, and that process has begun by advising the current tenants of the intention to do that when their leases come to an end. So if nothing more happens, no more decisions are made, then we will by default offer the properties on an open tender basis, because that is what they currently are. The option is to put them out to tender as a conventional property that doesn't include as being a startup on a 5-year plus 5 year.
And so then the automatic renewal, that's the bit where if we're all happy with the arrangement, it carries on, but it would be tendered again after a further 10 years.
Yes.
Can I ask what the reason was for putting it on the agenda tonight then? And what the reason for putting it on the credit service committee? Why was it brought back to the table then? If this was a binding decision, why is it not just been done?
I now move to item. Oh, has anyone got any questions? Okay, so I now move to reports from Cornwall councillors.
Thank you. I'll do it as quick as I can, but it may take a little time. Dredging the dredging operation on the canal is complete, and you have noticed that the Crescent car park operation is demobilised. I'm told so far, although we haven't had a proper wash up, that it's been successful. I know that there have been local observations about the level of silt left close to the banks. Those areas. Some of you may have heard of the Mid Cornwall Metro, which is effectively a railway from Newquay to St Austell. It would be a very good thing for Cornwall, I believe. I'm not sure of the impact it would have on Bude, but what I do want to say is that as it stands at the minute, the project has been costed. There's been some big grant money coming down from the government to Cornwall for this project, on the stipulation that Cornwall Council guarantees any overspend. Right, I am deeply concerned about this, and I have grand reservations about any infrastructure project running to cost and the potential impact on the council taxpayer of Cornwall. So that's another one which I'm watching really closely. Back to local matters, Coast View. I've had several residents complaining to me about cars apparently doing breakneck speeds up and down that road. In particular, a car which sounds like it's a cannon going off. I think I've heard it myself. I don't quite know what adjustment you make to a car to make it explode. It doesn't sound like a very good thing to do to a car to me, but it's certainly annoying. The police have offered to work with local people in that area and myself to set up a speed watch group. So if any councillors want to support me in that, I'd be very grateful for you to let me know. St Michael's Graveyard have complaints about. The Cormac are scheduled to cut it 3 times a year, we managed to get one of those cuts brought forward a little early to tidy it up. I am having concerns from Shorelands estate residents because they feel the infrastructure, that is the roads and the pavements, are not being finished in a timely fashion. I'm working with ex-councillor Tony Gibb to try and work with the developer to make sure that does happen, and I'm meeting with the developer and all the council officers in a couple of weeks' time on that. I'm also getting complaints about smells coming from the sewage plant at Marin Church, so if anybody has any complaints about those, please do let me know, because it helps build a case. I'm also getting complaints about parking issues on the roads where we have the new overnight restriction on cars only areas. So if anybody has anything to feedback to me on that, please do. And there has been a resident suggest to me that the Whitworth Bay Road up to where the Chuff Hotel, or Elements, as it has also been known, or Burnt Out Shell now, is in the Bude division. And I've had a local resident suggest that the entire road from Bude to Whitworth ought to be a 40-mile-an-hour zone. I have sympathy for that. If anybody supports that, please do let me know. And finally, we're pleased to know, just a heads up, I've mentioned this before, but we are having a new waste collection regime coming in before the end of this year. It's coming in August, September, the rollout. We'll have black bag waste collection once every other week, and then recycling on the opposite week. And there will be the introduction of food recycling, where we'll have a separate small caddy provided to put waste food into, and then an outside one which is all sealed and rodent and vermin proof. That's it from me. Thank you for indulgence. Happy to take any questions.
Could I ask Councillor LeBron, how much silk was actually removed from the canal in total?
Jolly good question.
Peter,
I wish I had the answer.
if you'd like to phone me tomorrow, I'll tell you, because I've got it written down from the Valley Marshal's meeting last week.
All right, there we go. I don't know.
But I do.
Thank you,
Tracy does.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford. I think it's somewhere in excess between 6,200 and 6,800, something like that.
Cubic meters.
No, tons?
Oh, tons.
Yes.
Right.
I've got it written down in
Okay. Mr. Jennings.
I said it before. I want this council to take up with Cornwall Council about the fact that every time properties come up in view, local people never get them. We need to go back to the old system of local people come first. As North Cornwall District Council had, where you had to have a local connection. This council should be doing everything it can for the people of this town to get homes in their own town.
I have sympathy for
I've
your
got,
position.
not my problem, I've got a home. I'm just
So-
trying to help other people out, because this council does nothing at all for the local people. They're not fighting for them in one little bit.
I believe a lot of councillors around this table wouldn't agree with you entirely.
Well, I can assure you, are they getting on to Cornwall Council about it? Because I can talk with Cornwall Council and you try dealing with them.
So one of the nuances about how the home choice allocation system works is that if you are in a village, well, in fact, anywhere in Cornwall, if you apply for a council-owned property, you have to demonstrate a local connection, right? Now, the veracity of that local connection varies between towns and villages. So in villages, your local connection must be much more close or proximate to the house that you are applying for, whereas in towns, it doesn't. You just merely have to provide a Cornwall verification.
But this
So quite rightly, as you said, somebody from Newquay could apply for a council house in Bude and have the same weighting given to them, or pensions.
the
That's
system
the
is
system.
totally against the local people. Totally and utterly
It's not
against
against.
the local people. It is. Because these people come down here, they'll find the worst bloody horrible place they can find to live in. And the minute the place comes up, they say, oh, this is all we've got. Oh, so they've got more points than the local people, and they go straight, they get them. And that's how they play, and they just play the system every time, these people.
Okay.
And it's
Okay, so-
totally against the local
Okay,
people.
so thank you, Mr. Jennings. You've asked your question now, and it has been thoroughly answered by the council. We're now moving on to item 6, minutes, where we approve or otherwise
So first of all, I hope you've all read these and the rest. 6A, full council to approve the minutes of the meeting on 6th of June 2024. All those in favour? All those against? All those abstaining? Carried, thank you. 6B, committees to receive and note the minutes of the committee meetings listed below. Number 1, Planning Committee, 5th and 19th of June 2024. We simply need to note these, don't we? Yeah, so we know. And number 2, Cultural and Heritage Services Committee, 27th of June 2024. Number 3, Corporate and Democratic Services, 20th of June 2024. Those 3, I do ask you to vote to note. So can you please vote to note those minutes? All those in favour? Thank you. All those abstaining? Those against? Okay, thank you. Moving on. We now move to the recommendations of some of those committees. So I've got number 1, PL 9324, to adopt minor changes to the Planning Committee terms of reference, which has been shared with you, and they seem to be quite straightforward and sensible ones. So rather than debate the pros and cons, I'm going to propose that we accept those changes. I need a seconder. Thank you, Sean. All those in favour? All those against? All those abstaining? Thank you. Number 2, CH 02624, to approve an application to be made to the Unlocking Collections Fund and provide necessary match funding. Deputy Clerk, I would just ask if you just take us through straight through.
Yes, indeed. So this was tabled at the Culture and Heritage Committee meeting last week. In essence, what this will do, if the council agrees the recommendation from that committee, is it will allow the Castle Heritage team to make an application to a fund called Unlocking Collections, run by the Arts Council, and that will pay to retain Matt as an outreach officer for the castle beyond the time he's currently paid to do that through the legacy which the council receive. So it's in essence to maintain a service that has been very well received, and there is a long list of letters of support from care homes and other places in the vicinity where Matt has gone and done his work, and it's proving very successful, indeed award-winning, not just very successful. And it was at the award ceremony where Matt received that award that I think it would be pushing things to say this application was solicited from the Arts Council, but it was recommended very strongly by the Arts Council that it be taken forward. It's looking to be in the region of £50,000, so a match funding of 10% would be 5 from the council. But perhaps if I put that as, rather than spending 5, investing 5 to get back another 45, you can think about it in that way.
John. Sorry, Sean, I didn't know.
Sorry, I propose we do that, because that sounds great.
Yeah. So sorry, if I may, the work that Matt does is wonderful. I've been to an old people. I'm not sure whether it's still allowed to call them that. A residential home for mature people. I don't know, whatever the correct terminology is. His work is excellent. He really understands the subject matter. He's got a really interactive pictures that he puts with people. He's bringing back memories. It's absolutely wonderful. And the point that I made at the Cultural and Heritage Committee when we did hear this is that I joined this council literally just as it was delivering Project Limelight, which I know had caused some pain, some anxiety. It was an expensive process. A lot of people fell out with each other. But the main proponent of that scheme was Councillor Richard Willoughby. And then his vision for that property, I believe, has been met. If he was around this table today, he would be absolutely delighted with what's going on there and the activities that are being provided, especially by our outreach officer. So I'm very happy to second it, and hope the rest of the council will as well.
Okay. Any further comments?
Just a question. I should probably know this because I had to give my apologies to the committee, but this is something that I support. But my only question is, do we have the money in the budget?
So this, if the council agrees the match funding, it will come out of next year's financial budget.
Any further comments? Okay, we have a proposer and a seconder. So, all those in favour? That is unanimous and carried. Okay, we now move on to item 3, CH 02724, to approve the flying of St George's flag on St George's Day.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just beg your indulgence, there is a crucial word missing from my apologies. It's to recommend.
To recommend. Yes. Okay. So to recommend the flying of St George's flag on St George's Day. Please bear in mind that this is now the third meeting in which we're discussing this. Yes.
I just wanted to put my point across, like I did at the Culture and Heritage meeting. I am against this, not because I'm against English people or anything like that, because I'm British, but the way that it has been put to us, if, you know, I don't know how many of the councillors around this table read that full email. I unfortunately did read that whole email, and it comes from somebody who clearly is not asking for the right reasons, and anyone that believes otherwise is extremely naive. I think the problems that this will cause to this council and the impact it will have on officers, staff and the community far outweigh any reason to fly the St George's flag. I think the Deputy Town Clerk gave us an example of what Bodmin Council do to get over this, and that is to fly the Union flag, which could then be flown for St Andrew's Day, St David's Day. It is an all-encompassing flag that represents every single person around this table, majority of the people in this community that celebrate those days. And I don't believe, after all the problems we've had with flags, that we should be encouraging the flying of St George's flag based on its more uses now, which is for far right people with extreme views. And I don't believe that the council deserve to have those issues and problems put against them. And I do believe that there will be problems and consequences for flying this. And I think the flying of the Union Jack is a fair and good way of overcoming those potential problems.
That's an interesting position, but that's not the proposal, the recommendations on the table.
No,
Yeah.
I wanted to share it.
I too have very strong disapproval of the way in which this request was made. But we have to, I believe, follow up that and ask, is it a legitimate request? Is it a legitimate request from a member of the community to fly St George's flag on St George's Day? And if we as a council say, no, it's not a legitimate request because that flag has been usurped by the far right, or that flag conjures up, football knobs and so on, I think it's a very difficult and slippery slope that we're taking. I have no affinity with St George's flag, apart from when it is flying to represent the England rugby team, and a Cornish person is playing on the England rugby team. I believe St Perrin's flag represents me and this community better than any other piece of cloth. But if somebody makes a request for St George's flag, I think it's a very difficult thing for us to turn it down, and will set a very difficult precedent. So for me, I believe that we should be allowing it to be flown, but we have to remember that it cannot be flown from Shoulder Hill, and I would say the place to fly it from is either here at the broadcast centre or at the council ground.
Yeah, thank you. So, just a request for a little bit of detail. So it says the flying of St George's flag on St George's Day, but it doesn't say where. So that would be just a request for some information. Is there a suggestion that it's flown on specific flagpoles, or is that for us to determine now?
Forgive me, Mr. Mayor, I can't remember from the top of my head if there was a specific request for a poll. My memory suggests that it was just a request for the flag to be flown. It wasn't specific.
It wasn't specific. Before I go to polling, any further comment from councillors?
Yeah, I this time agree with Councillor Bowler. I think that a national flag to celebrate a national saint, we shouldn't be afraid of. Although we haven't had requests, I don't think I'd have a problem with flying a Welsh flag on St David's Day. I've got the chicken straws in. That's the Scottish Saltire on St Andrew's Day. I'd have no problem with if a request that would come forward for that as well. But I don't think it feels like we're being bullied into not flying it because it's associated with other things. It's our national flag and that's it. So I'm happy to support that. And further than that, I'll make the proposal that the England flag is flown from West Shoulder Hill on St George's Day. St George's flag is flown from West Shoulder Hill on St George's Day. West Shoulder Hill being Castle Mound.
Councillor Moore.
Yeah, I've seconded that. Ironically, the council with authority in previous years has flown it anyway. So it probably would have been part in any case.
Okay.
So there we go. I'll second it.
So, Mr. Jennings.
The Welsh would never fly the English flag on the English day. Why should the Welsh? The Celtic nations have their own saints and they should be respected. The English think they can go anywhere they like and take everything over. This is a Celtic land and we have our own saint, and that is the only saint's flag and saint's day that should be had in full.
Okay. Okay, so we're now going to move to a vote, which is essentially based around Councillor Boyd's proposal that the St George's flag will be flown on St George's Day on the West Shoulder Hill next to the castle. All those in favour? Okay, thank you. All those against? All those abstaining? Thank you, that's carried. Sorry? Councillor, okay. Okay. Do you want to vote recorded? Okay. Right. Okay, number 7. I'm going to come to you in a second, Deputy Clerk. But we hopefully will also have seen the letter that was sent round today, which is a letter of support for Cornwall Council's application to secure Coastal Transition Accelerator Programme funding. Please, could you add a little bit to that?
Yeah, I'd like to give my apologies that you received it so late. In part, this was because before writing it, we wanted to ensure we'd had our meeting with Rhys Hobbs, to whom the letter is addressed, and Rob Ewing to discuss further the CTAP issue and the programme itself, and to ascertain to what extent it might be able to assist the council with some of the recommendations from the climate jury, which the council has been asked to look at. And so that meeting wasn't unfortunately able to be held until yesterday, but it was held, and subsequently the letter has been written. What you will have seen from other correspondence I've sent today is that, as Councillor McBroy alluded to with the walkway and sand rails, is the repair of those can be done to a certain level, is proposed to be done to a certain level, but with CTAP funding could be done to a greater extent. And so that was one of the things that's come from it. And also confirmation was received from Mr. Hobbs that some form of assistance can come from the CTAP funding towards some of the aspirations of the jury recommendations. So again, my apologies, you received it very late. It's not a particularly lengthy letter. And what it's doing is giving support to Cornwall Council to apply to the department for funding, which will be held by Cornwall Council. So in terms of its financial implications on us as money held, there are none. It's merely a letter of support. I've said too much.
Okay, thank you very much. Sean?
Yeah, I think this is great. I fully support this letter of support and propose that we approve the letter, because otherwise we are in danger of standing in our own way with the CTAP. So yeah, I think the sooner we get on board with that and show our support for council's programme, the better.
Thank you.
Yes, I mean, I support the application for accelerated programme funding, but I'd like to kind of be assured by Cornwall Council that there could be representatives from this council when the decisions are made about how that funding is actually spent. Because you know, I'm really pleased to see sound rails as one part of it, but it would be great for the people with local knowledge and the people who are democratically elected to actually be on the decision-making panel for that. So I don't know how to incorporate that in, but I would like that assurance from Cornwall Council. I did ask the leader of Cornwall Council that when we were meeting with her, but I didn't really get any particular response. They said they'd come back to me, and they haven't come back to me with an actual answer to the question. But my view is that it's not enough that Cornwall Council and the Climate Partnership are making those decisions. I think this council needs to
Yeah, agree entirely with Councillor Purchase. And one of my misgivings about the CTAP programme, as many of you will probably know, is that I have grave concerns over some of the making space for sound ideas, and particularly around some of these car parks. And I don't feel that anywhere near enough consultation and public awareness is around yet of what some of those plans that are emerging. So I agree entirely with Philippa in that any decisions on how that money is spent ought to have some better local representation in. And I hope that we can perhaps add it to that letter.
Possible to add something like that to the letter?
I don't think it'd be possible. I'll take advice, but I think we can add something along those lines.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, if all the councillors are finished, I'd just like to ask a question about CTAP, because my recollection was that the breakwater and the canal were not able to tap into this particular funding because they were considered, structures that should be looked after by the particular authority, which is Cornwall Council. And CTAP funding was for all the sound projects, as Councillor Roy explained, and I believe there are 40 of them up and down Cornwall at the moment. So I just wondered how suddenly this money, you're being asked to sign this letter, and this money's going to go towards the sound rails, when, according to what I've seen previously, and I might be wrong, it was always that the canal and the breakwater are not part of this particular funding stream. Could someone explain, has that changed?
I'm feeling that, and I might be wrong too, but I have a feeling that the sort of the repairs or the sort of the covering over the sound rails that they want to do is not part of the structural integrity of that part of the coastline, if you like. And so that's why it's kind of an optional extra, and that's why the CTAP funding is available. What I was going to say was that the confusion between the CTAP and the Making Space for Sand. It's the Making Space for Sand project that is looking at 40 locations around the coast. I understand the CTAP is just for Bude.
Correct. Councillor Boyd, has your hand up. If we are going to attempt to answer that question, Councillor Browning answered it, I understand. Councillor Cole, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I believe that one of the reasons why the CTAP funding can be used for that particular bit is to make a better access. And that because of the Making Space for Sand, obviously access from the others, from conventional access from the car park will be potentially diminished. So access in from that side can be improved using that funding. So that I think is part of the reason. It's an access issue.
Frankie.
So I attended the meeting along with Secretary Clark and Town Clerk, and one of the questions we raised was, is the business proposal that's been put forward prescriptive in terms of the specifics of the project? And we were advised that it wasn't, to allow the communities to have better involvement in what projects were put forward and what that money was spent on. And we felt that it was obviously a much broader and more in-depth conversation than that, but we felt that his explanation and subsequent information that was sent through gave us assurances that the business plan that is being put forward, that this letter supports, isn't, these are the prescriptive things that have to be done, and there is no movement around that.
Thank you.
Can I also say, Mr. Mayor, that on behalf of my councillors, I did ask a question which I thought might come up, which is potentially pertinent to today's events, which is, would the CTAP funding and the business case still stand if there was any change of government? And the answer to that was yes, it still stands. But you, mine's impressed.
I second the proposal.
Okay, so we have a proposal to approve this. Obviously, with the considerations that indeed here, and that's been seconded by Councillor Purchase. So can I ask the vote? All those in favour? Are you voting in favour, Councillor?
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
And that's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, my apologies, the letter would have been more fulsome. I wanted to make sure you had at least something to consider.
Sorry, just excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I did say.
Yes, you did, and thank you so much for staying the extra time. I'm sorry I couldn't. Okay. Okay. Item 8, to receive a feasibility study of the youth facility project and approve any associated actions. Can I first thank Frankie for a very detailed report about the complexities of the youth facility project. Given the time at this point, can I recommend to councillors to focus their minds upon the last page of the report, which talked about the process to deliver, and to be clear on what decision we could consider. So the basic option is to accept the feasibility study for a youth facility at the sports pavilion and progress to the planning phase of the project delivery. So we'll be moving to the next step. So at this point, we would vote to essentially move forward or not at this point. Okay, therefore, I ask for comments, questions from councillors on the report with that in mind. Listen.
I'm really happy to just propose it because to me it seems something that we've all aspired to for a very long time. I can't imagine anybody would be against it. I'm sure some people might want to comment, but I'm just going to propose that we go with that option.
I would happily second that. Does anybody else wish to comment? Okay, all those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 9, to receive an update on the skate park. And again, thank you for all those involved in the skate park project so far. Again, we're in a situation where we have to decide whether to move on to the next step or not. Frankly, I ask you to make any comments you want to.
So agenda item 9 is just an update in terms of where we are at this point. Just a few pertinent items just to bring to your attention. There have been lengthy discussions around the drainage for the site, and the option that is looking to be progressed towards planning will involve us seeking approval to put drainage works across Crooklet's car park, mainly because the ground on which we are building upon is obviously sand, and the infiltration testing that was undertaken was not successful because of the formation of the land, so we can't actually filter the water through and get the data we need to be able to do land infiltration. So this would basically be a surface runoff through the car park. So that will require additional approvals to be sought, which weren't originally on the table. The second lease for the additional land is still obviously outstanding, and that won't move along until we have gained planning permission and funding. See, the general election that was called has hiatus on the funding that we were involved in, and there is no guarantee as of tomorrow that that funding will still be available. And it's likely, if we have a new government formed, that that fund, because it was coming into its last round, will cease, and we will then have a new fund with potentially new terms that we have to apply to. But all is not lost, because it's only July and we still have time, and that is obviously on our side. I've also been in discussion with the contractor around multiple start dates and the impact that would have on the project, in terms of cost and time to finish in time for the season. And we still looking at 3 different dates, 1 towards the end of this year and 2 into the early part of the following year. We still believe that they're still optional. So worst case scenario, if things moved on another 6 months and we didn't get the funding until December, it wouldn't delay the project from happening or starting in the ground, but whilst this council is still in post. Just to remind you all, of course, that we are still not liable for anything more than planning with the contractor. We haven't entered into any other agreements with them at this stage until the funding is in place, so that does exclude us from any very costly expense. And that's it. So it's just a note. I'm happy to take questions.
Yes, it is. Can I apologise to councillors? At this point, we're not approving anything tonight. That is the next item on the agenda connected with this. That's my mistake. I apologise. Essentially, we are noting this. But do you have any questions?
There was a councillor before.
Okay, sorry, Sean, I didn't see you.
Hello. Can I ask a boring question about drainage? So saying about like the attenuation rate's really poor on that side, which is not surprising, and you're seeking approval from Cornwall Council because of drainage. Is any part of that drainage going to be, like I said in attenuation a minute ago, I meant infiltration rates of poor. Is any of it going to be attenuation based, or is it all going to be running over Cornwall Council land and somewhere else? So like, what's the drainage strategy? I'm just interested, because if there is an attenuation option, that potentially could impact the feasibility of that as a car park. So I'm just interested what the thinking is at this point in time, as the ground is not suitable for infiltration. Sorry for mixing up the words.
No, it's fine. So there was an option for an infiltration tank,
right,
but that's been taken off the table for those very reasons, and also it's very costly for us to do that. So this is a simpler mechanism that allows the existing park has basically just holes in the wall where the water runs over the car park, and we're proposing that we basically take those holes and put them slightly underground to go in the same direction that they currently are.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, sorry, mine I think feels very similar to Sean's actually, because certainly in the planning committee we talk an awful lot about runoff and the impacts of house building in the upper reaches of Bude on the lower reaches of Bude. So I wouldn't want to think that we ourselves are sort of breaking rules that we're putting into place ourselves. But can you clarify something for me? That sand, so if I was to get a bucket of water and pour it on there, it's not going to run off down somewhere over there. It's just going to go straight down, isn't it? Is it the case that the infiltration tests or I'm not sure what the right word is it permeability? That the sand was so permeable that you couldn't get a result. So therefore you're going to have to run off.
Which is currently how the existing park is set up.
That just appears to me like a bit, but no, it's not silly on our part, it's silly on the people that are putting the rules upon us to do that.
So essentially we dug, I don't know if you remember, we dug enormous holes in the ground and filled them with water and they collapsed. So we couldn't do the testing to see how quickly the water drained.
Because it went too quickly.
Because it collapsed, so it undermines itself. So, which is how the existing park is set up in.
Thank you. It's not us being silly, it's the rules proposed.
Okay, any other councillors? Yes, sir.
Can I ask, I've noticed that most of the new additions to the skateboard park are on slopes. And of course, the water's going to run down those slopes at great force. And then you're going to have a hole, and that's going to go, and that water is going to go through the hole and shoot out over sand. And you've just said yourself that the area collapses. So where you put your holes isn't going to go, it's not going to just run to the next hole on the flat level of the part below, but it's going to run, and you're going to have these areas of just denuded, well, grass. When people stand on it, it's going to do. So what we're going to have is a lovely bit of concrete, and then a lovely bit of bare earth, sand, whatever you want to call it. Then we're going to have another lovely bit of concrete, another lovely bit of bare sand. The whole of that hill is going to be completely devoid of vegetation very, very quickly with people standing on it, the holes of your drainage system, and it's going to look not maybe what the council envisages when they get a pretty picture. Just think about it, please.
Okay, thank you for that assertion. Right. Anybody else wish to comment? Right. Well, okay, so we've noted that, and we will now move on to the point where we have to take an action. So, item 10, to receive the updated final designs of the skate park project following the wide consultation that we did, and approve any associated actions. And this is the thing that essentially we approved. That is the basic thing. So, okay, so councillors now have nice big paper versions available to themselves. Sorry, what was it? Yeah. So, okay, any questions?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Kathy, for all this work that you've done on this.
Yes.
Yes, I don't really understand any of it. It sounds absolutely lovely.
I must admit that I am not an expert. I did get on the
Melody
skate
out
board
really
in
rapid.
1975.
But yeah,
Councillor
thanks for
Brown,
doing
first, Councillor Roy, yeah.
Thank you. Just sort of reflecting back to our previous discussion about bringing checking this picture, would it not be the case then that the pipe work, that the water is piped under the car park, which that's what I'm understanding. So it doesn't pitch out onto the slope, We've done the car park into the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roy?
I just want to say, I just want to try and give Mr. Curry some sense of reassurance about the water. It's not just going to jet out from one spout of the side of the skate park. The planning authority would never allow us to do that. There will have to be water management in place. And I think our project offer has alluded to the fact that there is some thought being given to that, and that will be part of our detailed plans that will be submitted to the council. There's no way they'll allow us just to put a scheme into place that's going to wreck the dams. They'll have to be. Well, the point that I was making was that the ground is so friable that it probably would go straight through and you wouldn't need anything. But your worry is that it wouldn't do that. The reality is that it'll have to be piped into somewhere.
You can't, as I understand it, and again, like councillors have pointed out, I've been wrong in the past, so I'm not going to say I'm going to be right this time. But as I understand it, you can't put bugger-all there, excuse my French, because you've got a cable, fibre optic cables going up through them. So how is it you're now allowed to put piping there? And under that,
well, the method is yet to be ascertained.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're not actually discussing the ins and outs of the actual construction of the project. What this item that we're discussing here is the design of the project, and what's on the choice between us is whether to approve it or not.
If I may, sorry, I'm not going to speak over there, but the design has been consulted on widely with users. It did an extensive piece of work, not once but twice, and informally many more times than that. And I'm very happy that we as councillors can have nothing further to contribute other than to receive the consultation and approve the plans as they are. So I'm going to propose that that's done. What I was a little concerned about was what the associated actions would have been for.
What?
Associated actions.
The associated actions would be the next step, whatever that would be. But as Frankie explained, we're in a little bit of a hiatus with possible change of government. There we go.
So let's be just clear about a few things. I didn't design this. We have a team of highly skilled professional people, which include flood drainage engineers who have extensive careers and have been issued with multiple drainage maps, which have been detailed and costed within their inch to allow us to be clear that this will drain appropriately. This isn't something that I sat and schemed up myself. The consultation was very successful. We had over 200 in-person consultees, plus many more online, and many changes that have been minor in terms of the smaller things that they've asked to see, including closing off one of the more dangerous entrances to the park, which you'll see on the top corner under number 16. The biggest change from the version that you were originally presented with is number 3. I don't know if you remember last time, there was the space that you see there was wider and it had a ridge down the middle. So essentially for some of the other changes that requested, the firm have come back to us with a design that has basically made that area smaller, but actually better for the users in terms of flexibility and movement, and allowed to free up some of the money to provide them with some of the other things that they requested, meaning that we didn't go over our original budget. So that is the major change in front of you, whereas the others are very minor and probably to the untrained eye can't really even tell because it does look very similar to the original designs. Like I say, if you approve this design, then it will go through the normal and full appropriate planning portal through Cornwall Council, where everything will be scrutinised within its life to ensure that we are doing our jobs properly.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nicely
So, councillor LeBroy has proposed that we approve it, goodness me. Charlie, got your hand up,
Yeah,
right?
most definitely do that.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, second it. All those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to item 11, to approve finance reports. So hopefully you've all had a chance to look at them. I'm going to go through these and ask for comments and then vote. So A, schedule of payment made between 22 June 2024 to the 4th of July. Any comments, questions?
Opposed, noted.
Okay, noted. Okay, so we need to vote. Do we know? Those in favour of voting? Sorry, I'm going a bit fast, but you can understand why. Number B, schedule of payments to be made on the 5th of July. I propose that they're noted. Approved. Okay. We second it. All those in favour? Number 12, to consider and note the end of year internal audit report 2023-24. This is a rather large document. Deputy Clerk, are there any particular elements you want to draw our attention?
There are, but it need not take too long, you'll be pleased to know. So if you give your attention to the action plan on page 11, and I'll quickly run through that. These are the recommendations from the auditor, and I can just let you know what's happening with those. So the investment strategy, that is now fallen to our responsible financial officer to do, so that is now beginning. The cafe and the castle shop, which you noticed there, will be the subject of the next audit. So it was obviously looked at this time, but it will be looked at in more scrutiny in the next audit. The current IT systems are being reviewed and upgraded. That is in hand. Conversations have been opened with Reverend Holland, who is the vicar in charge at St Andrews and Stratton and St Olave's. Nearly forgot what the same was. St Olave's, so possible. So we will continue those conversations and actions there. And I've got a note that says this is being done under the business continuity, so rest assured that is being done. And payroll, we are undertaking training staff. The payroll issue is one of those pinch point potential risks where if you only have one person who's able to do it, and something, heaven forbid, happens to those, then you could have a payroll situation. So we are training more staff to be able to do that particular function. So that's the comments on the action plan and the audit.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments on the table?
Okay, thank you. I'll try and finish my build up on this. I've got 3 points to make. The first point is that there's a comment which talks about ensuring the current year budget reports are prepared and submitted to authority committees periodically during the year with appropriate commentary on any significant variances. And I'd like to I suppose, support that we don't end up having committees having spreadsheets of numbers, that we do actually have some commentary about those numbers where we can answer the exam question, which is, are we under or over budget? And if we're over budget, why?
Yeah.
So that's one point I'd like to make. Number 2 is that it says that it's recommended that the council may wish to consider reviewing potential booking packages for the Park House Centre. Well, we had a Park House forum which recommended exactly that. So that is already, we don't need to go back to that. That's what I'm saying, is that we've already got a proposal on the table, that's done.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor, we're having a meeting about that on Monday.
That's it, we are. And the third one is the question here about in the action plan about Lord's Court, where it says implement effective segregation in the financial accounts. And again, that's been a proposal that's been on the table since we bought Lord's Court, that councillors can see all of the income and expenditure around the Lord's Court in a separate spreadsheet, not kind of mingled in with all the others. So again, I'd like to really support that piece of work.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, then so all we have to do is note. Thank you very much. I propose that we note that. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Moving on. Number 13, to elect members, potentially, to the following committees. Planning Committee, we have 4 vacancies. Would anybody like to put themselves forward? Planning Committee. Okay, next one. Cultural and Heritage Committee, we have 1 vacancy. Would anybody like to put themselves forward for that? Okay, moving on. C, Town Team Representatives. This came back from because of confusion at the last and needed clarification at the last meeting. We have 1 vacancy because currently Councillor Daw is the current rep. In this situation, I would just like to put myself forward for this vacancy.
I should also say, Mr. Mayor, I've heard from Councillor that he, when giving his apology, said that he's happy and content to remain the rep, but equally happy and content if someone else wishes to do it. So just throw that into the mix.
Good. Would anybody else like to put themselves forward? Okay. Right. Could we? Oh, this is awful. This is awful because I'm voting. I'm propose. Can I propose that we vote to approve me being on the town team?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, in the interest of fairness, I'm not sure Councillor Clinton's in the room.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It's my fault. I should have stopped you. So, well, I didn't.
Okay, Lou, just so you're clear, we've got a vacancy on the town team. Councillor Daw is presently one of the holders of that as a representative. I've put myself forward as potentially the second representative. That doesn't mean to say you can put yourself forward.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Okay. Then I propose. Can we vote in favour or against himself? Sorry, do you have a second? Okay, sorry, I'm just going too fast. I apologise. All those in favour of me being on the team, it feels so,
Could be done.
okay, hands down. Those against? And those abstaining. Okay, no, thank you very much.
Would you just clarify that Councillor Daw will carry on as the second?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, therefore. Right, okay, we've done number 14. Number 15, to amend the terms of reference of the Cultural and Heritage Services Committee to include the Park House Centre. I think this is a sensible, straightforward amendment. Anybody wish to comment on it at all? Ethan.
I had, so it's not in relation to the addition of the Park House Centre. And I could make a comment in terms of the terms of reference. So it's just a question.
Questions on now.
In terms of point 8 on GOR, is that something that is exclusive to cultural and heritage, or is that something that?
Can you specify item 8 is?
The friendly environment, it's on all of them.
So it's on all of them. Yeah. That was all I had.
Okay. Thank you. Right. I propose that we accept the amendment of the terms of reference. Would anybody like to second that? Thank you. Okay, and all those in favour? All those against? That's unanimous, wasn't it? I apologise. Right, so, right. Number 16. To receive any updates from lead councillors. Would lead councillors have any updates they'd like to share with us today? Yes.
I just wanted to share that I went along to the Pearl Exchange Open Day. I had a lovely time. They are very knowledgeable. The building is beautiful. I'm very glad that that building was saved as one thing. But yeah, they've done a really good job. I spoke to them about a few things, including being a little bit more inclusive or making themselves appear more inclusive, which they talked to me in depth about how now they have a bigger space, they can work with more people. They are working with social prescribers as well. And last year they actually put on an event where it was just for social people that had been recommended by social prescribers, and they're hoping to do more of that. I did bring up the fact that for some people it looks very LGBT only friendly, and they are also aware of that, and they have things in place. They gave me a programme of what's on this month, and I think they've done a really good job. And that is it.
And they also have an open day on Sunday, don't they?
They do
So
indeed.
I'll try and pop it on.
They would love to see as many councillors there as possible. I think they'd really appreciate support and just, you know, to get the word out there of how much extra they can achieve now.
Okay, thank you very much. Any of the councillors' reports? Okay, item 17. Apparently, we are a sort of council. To appoint a lead councillor to now Super Council's network. We're a super council primarily because of the size of our budget, I believe. Can you just clarify this?
Yeah, so we've received a communication from that, which is a national organisation, which because we preset for over 1 million, have a turnover of over 1.5 million, that we qualify for super council status, and this would be a national meeting, probably with the option of attending online. Yes, indeed, well, we Zoom course it says as much there. And so we're really looking for a lead councillor to go and join all those other super councillors. In fact, we're all super councillors.
Volunteers. Councillors assembled.
Volunteers are quite.
So volunteers, would anybody like to put themselves forward?
Do we have any idea when these Zoom meetings are held?
The 12th of September at 6 o'clock till 9:15, and 15th of November to be confirmed.
Yeah, anybody like to put themselves forward?
Obviously, that doesn't make it easy for everybody.
Okay, can I so that we defer this?
Well, we can do a round robin to you all. Those who are unable to attend, see if we can attract the super council.
Absolutely. Attract.
Yes. Oh, 1 second. Wavering.
Everybody's scary.
What time?
6 o'clock till 7:15.
It is a Thursday night. I might be here.
Yeah. Are you volunteering to be super? You're not.
Yeah.
Round robin it is.
Round robin, we're deferring and round robin. Right, number 18, to adopt a Cornish language policy. The Deputy Clerk.
I'll be very quick. So during Speak Cornish Week, an organisation called Anne Rossway, which is a group of volunteer organisations in the Cornish language sphere, wrote to all town and parish councils and asked if they would adopt a Cornish language policy. Suffice to say that all of the things they recommended that are included in that we're already doing. So this isn't really a policy to make you do anything, you do it anyway, but it's really just to have it in writing and then obviously to be publicly available as a commitment to this cause.
Okay. I think it might be particularly useful as well that in the Cornish Language Week, which I think generally is towards the end of June, there are particular things in there that you said we would basically do.
We would try to. So yes.
Yeah. Any comments, questions? Okay.
For me, it's a no-brainer. It's part of the heritage. We are a minority that has been recognised by the European Union and from the European Union by the British government. So it stands to reason, I believe, that we as a local council in Cornwall should be supporting this initiative.
Any other comments? Sure.
This is great, please can we do it? Right, we do it.
That's a second.
Okay, so it's a proposal, second, can we, all those in favour? Lovely, that's unanimous. Okay, number 19 was to receive any correspondence from the clerk. There was, at the time it was published, there was one piece of correspondence, which was a long letter in connection with the youth jury, referring to that we said that we originally would report back on the 4th of July, but acknowledging the complexity of what they'd actually asked them. And the position at present is that it is a complex situation. We require more meetings of our working group so that we can get to grips with this in a practical manner that allows us to measure the capacity of the council to deal with these, the time potentially, to discuss all the ins and outs, and also to pursue potential forms of finance outside of the council. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think, was the letter circulated to you by the clerk? It was, yes. So, members of the jury were going to attend this evening, but we had a conversation with Mr. Ewing with the project to explain, hence the masks, that there had been a level of COVID in the area, and so they decided that they wouldn't attend this meeting, but they would come to the next one. So we can re-table this, if you like, the agenda for the next meeting. It's really just a notice, there's no action correspondence.
Sorry.
Can I just ask, have we got another meeting?
Yes,
scheduled
yes,
for
yes,
the,
yeah.
working
Yeah, the delay in calling it was for us to have this meeting with Mr. Hobbs about CTAP funding and to see to what extent that might be able to help with the requests that be made. So we've had that meeting now, we will convene another one with ASC.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've noted that. Any other correspondence?
That was it.
Okay. Item 20 is simply to note the date of the next meeting, which is the 1st of August 2024. We're now going to have to move into a confidential session. We need to resolve to do that. As a result of if we move into a confidential session, members of the public will be excluded from the meeting because of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. That was the public body's submission to meeting back 1960. I propose that we move to a confidential session. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. Therefore, the public session of this meeting is over.